Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the art of the Reind games. Now, you might be asking, 1. What in the actual flippity are the Reind games? And 2. Have you recently been consuming illegal substances? Well, 1. I'll tell you, and 2. No one's supposed to know about that. Right, anyway, the Reind games stem from the phrase mind games, but obviously with a little bit of extra Reinhardt in there. Essentially, these are the little mini-games you play with the enemy players to make sure that you can do your actual job, as the only wall between getting team wiped and almost having a competent team. Of course, these come in the forms of dancing around Swedish shields and the fake out fun. So essentially, if you haven't guessed already, this is going to be another Reinhardt guide. Woo! But this one is a little bit different from all the others. However, there are a few ideas here that can also be found in CarQ's Reinhardt tip video, so obviously it's the same hero. So some things might be similar. But if you want to check that out and you're looking for more tips, the link will be in the description. So most guides that say they're advanced Reinhardt guides will tell you, oh yeah, make sure to hit left click and E to get 175 burst damage, which is pretty basic stuff. Or, you know, to make sure you W mouse 2 to be effective at Reind. Like, seriously, this stuff is obvious. I mean, if you're trying to learn Reind, these are the basic things you figure out pretty quick. So here's an actually advanced Reinhardt guide, coming from someone who's done a little bit too much research on this hero and has played quite a bit in the past 2 seasons. So let's begin with the tank heroes and how to beat the schnitzel out of them. First up is D.Va, and your only advanced job is dealing with her bombs. Now, I know I said advanced, right? So what's the catch? Well, if you stand there like a complete idiot with your shield to block it the whole time, there are various things that can happen to you. First, the enemy Reinhardt can shatter you for a free team kill or even charge you. Second, the shield could break depending on its health. Third, if you're too slow, you'll get stunned for another team kill. And the final thing that you can't really stop would be an EMP from Sombra, so what do you do instead? Forget about the bomb until approximately half a second before it detonates, and if you weren't charged, stunned, or EMP'd, whip around to block it. In fact, when my shield is at really low HP, like around 200 or lower, I'll even keep my shield down until just before it detonates to make sure I can protect my team. Next is Orisa. Now, at first she seems like a pretty good counter to Reind for various reasons, but with some simple ability tracking, there's a reason her pick rate is so much lower than his. So here's the thing, Orisa's barrier is extremely unimportant to you. There's essentially no reason why you shouldn't literally just walk past it, unless it leaves you open to attack from all angles, trust her supports to heal you, and just get in there. Now, Orisa will usually use Fortify if you challenge her up close. Use this opportunity to keep your shield up since trying to duel her is useless, she can just out DPS you flat out. Once her Fortify is on cooldown though, that's your chance to shatter her, or to charge her, since her shield is already past you and she can no longer stop you. Also, anytime you can, make sure to kill her bongo, since you can reach past her shield to get it and 3 slaps gets it down. Next is the big meat of the Reind games, the Reinhardt duel. Now strap yourselves in since this is gonna be a good few minutes and will be a huge chunk of part 1. Here are the key principles of the Reind games. Managing your aggression, keeping your shield at a higher number of hit points, blocking Earth Shatter, pin reaction and counter charging, fire strike trading, managing the cooldowns of his freaking devil squire, denying his space, and finally landing your own successful Earth Shatters. We have a ton to get through today, so let's get started. Managing your aggression, what does this look like? Well, it's essentially when you're trying to force the enemy Reinhardt to put down his shield by being super aggressive on him. If there's no way for you or your teammates to get picked off in the time it takes to get one swipe off, then that is what you should be doing. In other words, don't do this into a Reaper or a Junkrat because it's basically suicide, but you can essentially get right up into the enemy Rein's face and hit him around a bunch. Not only does it force him to back up a bit due to damage, but it's likely he'll drop his shield to try and hit you back, which is when you pull back and put your shield back up for your team to deal the most damage they can to him and his team. It's always a bit of a gamble, and never do it with an enemy Widow on their team, but it's something you should get into the habit of managing. Next is keeping your shield at a higher number of hit points. This can also be referred to as the shield break race. Whoever's shield breaks first is almost guaranteed to lose a teammate or to get shattered. That being said, how do I manage my shield? Well, generally it's something you pick up over time, but here are a few tips. 1. Against the Junkrat, wait for the enemy team to reach you and keep your shield positioned in places that are tougher for him to hit. For instance, try and lure their team through the gate at Hanamura and make it seem like there's space for them to go to, then shut off the rest of their team with your shield. This way, you still have the hit points on your shield to block damage while your team cleans up. Don't forget, while you're aggressing on the enemy Reinhardt, your shield isn't taking any more damage. Essentially, you're body blocking for the sake of your shield, since you can be healed easily, but your shield needs time to recharge. Also, if your shield is below 750, don't ever go in when you're on attack. Not everyone is aware of this, especially non-Reind players that are flexing on Reind, but you must have about 1000 health minimum before thinking about going in, since a broken shield at the beginning of a push is enough to stop it entirely. So next, here's my favorite part about playing Reinhardt, the shatter blocking. Against inexperienced Ryans or flex players, this is kind of laughably easy from high plat and lower. So here's the thing, when they get shatter, most Ryans are eager to use it as soon as possible instead of waiting to figure out when would actually be a good time to use it. To block every shatter in a game, here's what you're gonna do. As you're aggressing the enemy Reinhardt, make sure you know he has shatter because 8 out of 10 times he'll try and use it while you're swinging. Here's where the easy part comes in. You can animation cancel your swing into your shield. Keep that in mind since it seems like not a lot of people actually know this. This is called a half swing or a fake swing. It appears like you'll be going through your whole animation, which is why it's so effective for outplaying the enemy Reinhardt. Keep in mind that you cannot animation cancel your fire strike, and we'll get into that later. Pin reaction and counter charging is exactly what it sounds like. You need to get into the habit of hitting shift whenever you see a charging German man coming for you. 7 out of 10 times you won't be able to dodge it, but if you can build up your reaction time to fast enough, 10 out of 10 times you won't take the full damage. It does leave you vulnerable for a few seconds and deals 50 damage to you, but it's better than leaving your team and giving the enemy Reinhardt a free shatter. Fire strike trading goes something along the lines of this. Use your fire strike as soon as it's off cooldown and aim it directly at his squire every single time. I'm not joking. She's generally your biggest threat at all times. If you can, try and line it up to hit other enemies as well, but she's priority target number 1. The other thing about Fire Strike though is that you shouldn't try and get chip damage with it if your ultimate is ready. You don't have anything to gain from it and it gives the enemy healers literally free ultimate charge. Next, we have the most annoying thing to deal with, which is Brigitte. Now, her stun is much easier to land and react with than McCree's, which means a competent Brig player can stun all of your charges and most likely shatters too. Not to mention she can also give the enemy team a free shatter. You have to make sure you know when it's been used before you even try to get in position for a good shatter. Also, if she's being too aggressive on you, treat her like an enemy Ryan and start slapping her around too. You can out DPS her and force her to back away. Just make sure that you don't leave your team wide open to an earth shatter. Next is denying the enemy Ryan space, and really not just his space, but the space of the whole team too. This generally comes in the form of just being in his face. The barrier you have out when holding a choke is essentially the no pass line for the enemy team, because if just one player tries to go past, well, they essentially die, since healing and damage won't go through to help them. So it's the enemy Reinhardt's job to try and open up the space by forcing you back with his own barrier and his own damage. This can really only be done if his barrier has more HP on it and is being drained slower than yours is. Another way he'll try and create space is by directly charging you, which by the way is also what you should be doing if you have a Zarya and you're on attack, both of which are quite likely. His barrier pushes forward in a sense along with his whole body, and that gives his team more room to spread out. Countercharging stops it for the most part. He gains some space but not nearly as much. Essentially, to shut down enemy Ryan's space, throw fire strikes at him, of course if Brigitte isn't there, and try to deal as much damage as you can to him directly. He'll need to slow his advance or pause it entirely, which is what you want. Okay, finally, arguably the most important part of the Ryan v Ryan duel, landing your own earth shatters. This can be hard for newer Ryan players since you want to know who to use shatter against, when to use it, and how not to get blocked by enemy Ryans. So here's what you need to know. First, using a solo shatter against like a nano visor or a nano blade is a-okay and I actually encourage it. If you can manage to land a shatter against a slippery Genji who's using a nano blade, a fire strike and a charge will flat out kill him. And since earth shatter can be charged just about every minute, it swings the ultimate economy really far in your direction. Next up, I know you all really want to get the 6-man kill, but if you can manage to get even just one high importance enemy like a Mercy, it's worth the shatter. Most likely there won't be the opportunity to get more than 4 people at max, unless of course you have a Brigitte on your team, in which it's significantly more likely. So getting 3-person or even 2-person shatters is literally fine. Next, how do you use it against the enemy Reind to make sure it doesn't get blocked? Well, in short, you really try not to. One of my favorite strategies is making sure the enemy Reind doesn't have shatter and trying to super aggressively get past him. Once you're at his team and you haven't been slept, stunned, or other such stupid effects, you can probably get at least 1 or 2 with your shatter. The next option is to charge the enemy Reind with a Zarya bubble on. If you can manage to kill him or at least get him out of the way, you can probably catch a few with your shatter. A smart Reind will try and bait out your shatter with a few fake swings, as we mentioned earlier. Try not to fall for this, as you can easily get outplayed. There is one exception to this though. If he goes for a fire strike, make sure to shatter him quickly. He can't cancel the animation and it leaves him and his team wide open. Just make sure that you keep track of anything else that could stop you. Sleeps, stuns, and other things like that, then you're golden. Most likely the enemy team won't expect the shatter and won't be able to stop it, but you can never be too cautious. Oh wow, this video is already super long and we still have a bit to get through, so let's just continue on. Against Roadhog, it's almost impossible for him to get a hook on you, but if he manages to get up close to you, your barrier can do very little to stop him. In this case, try and slap him a little bit away from you and keep your shield up during most of it. When he uses Take a Breather, try and shatter him, then combo for the free kill. When he's using his ultimate, don't keep your barrier up since it'll get completely shredded. Instead, just let it carry you back to safety and then put your shield up, so long as safety doesn't mean into the enemy team or off a cliff. Next is Winston, and he'll usually try to be super aggressive against your backline, and he'll be off from his team's position. Use this to completely punish him. His damage is significantly lower than yours and you have 200 armor for him to get through. In short, be super duper aggressive when he lands near your team, and you can probably manage to kill him before his leap gets off cooldown. After all, his barrier means nothing against the Hammer of Justice. When he's using his ultimate, try and focus your efforts on killing him, since you can't do much else getting batted around like that. And finally, Zarya. She is the bane of shatters, fire strikes, and pins alike. Most Zaryas are hungry for energy at the beginning of rounds. If you throw a fire strike right at her, she'll probably reactive bubble and it'll just give her a free 20 charge. Instead, throw the fire strike above her and try to bait out her bubble. Also, when you're looking for a shatter, keep in mind that her and any enemies behind her will not be knocked down if she's using her personal bubble. Try and break it as soon as you can or wait for it to run out, since the charge won't matter when she's dead. This will give you a better shatter chance. Also, keep track of her ally bubble too, since it can ruin your pins. And if possible, try to pin her when she has her personal bubble in use. She'll feel protected and will probably be out more in the open, but it'll most likely run out by the time you hit the wall. The initial 50 damage won't hit her, but that's fine when you can burst her down easily after the pin. When it comes to grabs, you have almost no chance of surviving unless you have a support ultimate to help you. Regardless, keep your shield up to protect your team from what you can. Wow, I think this is the longest scripted video I have ever made. There's just so much to talk about in terms of the really advanced Reinhardt strategies that it can't all just be put in one video, so that's why it'll have to be continued over the next few weeks. This is part 1 and you can expect part 2 to come out pretty soon. Well, that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, and you found this advanced guide to be super helpful, make sure to drop a like down below, as it really helps me out and helps to grow the channel. Of course, leaving a dislike is just fine too. But either way, you obviously enjoy Overwatch as you clicked on this video for whatever reason, so why not subscribe, as I love Overwatch too, and these videos are made just about weekly. Also, make sure to turn notifications on with a click of a bell so you can leave that first comment that you've always wanted to. This is Carter signing off, and as always, have a fantastic day.